Hi, it's Saturday morning, about 7:30. It's the end of January here in Minnesota, and it's about 24 degrees according to the weather app on my phone. We're setting up to do a brew day. Alright, so I've got my propane cylinder and I've got my Blickman burner with my pot sitting on top of it, sitting next to my lower deck stuff and my smoker. You can see everything's pretty well covered with snow, including the upper deck. Time to go get our mash water. Alright, so we got about 7 gallons of water in there. You'll notice that it's pretty cold. It's going to take a while to get us up to mash temperature. Alright, our flame's burning nice and clean. You'll note that I've got the air intake actually closed. What happens if you open it up? You'll hear that raging, and look at the instability of the flame. If I close it down, that's the case. That's due in large part to the temperature out here. If it was 80 degrees out, that would probably be different. Some of you are probably concerned that I am setting this directly on a wood deck, but I will point out the snow you see underneath there. Last week when I brewed, that never actually melted all the way, so it's clearly not getting that hot underneath there, so I'm not terribly worried about it. Alright, while the mash water's warming up, I'm going to go back inside and gather up the grains and the other things we're going to need when it's time to actually do the mash. Alright, the water's getting to about 75 degrees, so we're about halfway to our 150 degree strike temperature. So, got the rest of my stuff here. Got my mash paddle ready to go. Got my bag of grains. And I've got 2 bags. I've got a large, the lighter colored one, large mesh bag picked up at Midwest Supplies. And I've also got a smaller bag. The big one's where we're going to put the grain. The small one is where we're going to put the hops. Alright, so what we're making today, or what I'm making today, is a Biere De Garde, which is one of the French/Belgian styles, frequently lumped together in a group called farmhouse ales. And our homebrew club's competition in March is going to be of these French and Belgian style ales. So this is what this one's for. The hops that we've got in here, Styrian Golding. I do the cliched take a deep whiff thing, but I don't particularly enjoy the smell of hops. I know I'm a weirdo. So I'm going to put the hops in the bag. In addition to the Styrian Goldings, our grain bill includes 10 pounds of Belgian Pilsner malt, 2 pounds of German Vienna malt, half a pound of Dingelmann's aromatic, and half a pound of Gambrius honey malt. This is actually, you'll notice with the Pilsner malt, and I was calling it an ale, usually don't have all that much Pilsner malt in ales, usually tends to be more lagers. It's one of the weird things about this style and this recipe in particular, is that it's kind of a lagerish grain bill. It uses a lager yeast, but you ferment at ale temperatures. So we've got that going for us. The specific yeast that we'll be using today is actually Wyeast 2112 California lager yeast. And I've also got an extra bucket sitting here. What I tend to do when we do this brew in a bag approach is that when I take the bag of wet grains from the brew kettle, I put them directly in here to drain that last little bit instead of leaking all over everything. And that also means that if you want, you can put that extra leavings in the brew kettle and capture it if you'd like. So today, in addition to the information about the beer itself, I thought I should mention that I am actually using the brew in a bag technique, which is something that is far more popular in Australia than it is in the United States, but it's catching on here. And it pretty much means that the entire process from mashing to boiling, lautering, everything. All it happens in the brew kettle instead of in separate containers. All you need is that big mesh bag that I showed you, and that separates the grain from the pot, and you can pull the bag out and it strains everything out. So that's the technique that I'll actually be demonstrating here today. From what I've seen on a lot of other people's videos, they tend to put the bag inside the pot and then pour the grain into it. And I actually set it up more like you would a bag of steeping grains, and I dump the grain into the bag and then put the bag in. It works easier for me. Maybe heresy to you, so be it. I like my beer. The other thing putting the grain in the bag first lets me do is shake out some of the dust and get that all out of there instead of it going directly into the mash. Alright, my thermometer says it's about 148, 149, something like that. I need a more accurate thermometer, which is in part why I'm about to, even though we're just shy of my mash temperature, I'm going to pull the thermometer, put the grain bag in, arrange things, and then coast into my temperature, because this thermometer makes it a little too easy to overshoot your mash temperature. Alright, well, we're pretty much at 150. You'll see the bag is sort of tucked around the edge. I've actually shut the burner off. It's no longer burning. When I did this last week, it was 15 degrees colder than it is right now, and I only lost a couple of degrees. Over half an hour, came out, bumped it up a little bit, and that was good enough. So today we'll see. I'll just come back out in half an hour. I'm out here half an hour later, and you'll see that it's still pretty much right at 150. I'm going to juice it just a little bit, get it up to like 152, so I will light the burner, let it run, and kill the burner again. I know that in some of the brew in a bag information I've seen elsewhere, people are concerned about the bottom of the bag burning or melting, and last time I did it this way without worrying about it, and pretty much no sign of any scorching or anything whatsoever on the bottom of the bag, for whatever it's worth. Alright, well, it's been an hour and our mash is done, so I'm out here to take the grain out and start the boil. I'm letting it drain, which can take a while. A lot of people put rigs together to hold this and let it drain out. I probably will when I get sick of holding this stuff over a few batches. But I do find that if you kind of lean it to the edge a little bit, it's not quite so bad to hold on to. Alright, now if you look at the level, you see that of the original 7 gallons, quite a bit's in the grain, some of it evaporated. The burner is now lit, and we're going to bring this to a boil and add the hops. Putting the lid back on, make sure that we get to a boil faster without losing too much to the air and to the Minnesota cold. Well, while I was gone, waiting for this to boil, I ate breakfast, and it clearly took a little too long because it very nearly boiled over without the hops in it. So I came back. I've now added the hops, and you'll discover one of the big downsides of brewing outside in January in Minnesota is the lack of visibility into the pot. You pretty much see steam, especially if you wear glasses or are a camera. But boil's going. We'll come out in an hour and kill the boil, and then it's time to chill it. Alright, I'm inside. I moved the kettle over to a snowbank to cool. Sealed the lid first for a little while, let the steam, make sure that the lid was sanitary. Without the thermometer, it makes a good seal. And killed the flame, moved the kettle over to a snowbank where it is now cooling. As soon as that's down to safe enough temperatures for a better bottle, I will bring it inside and we'll put it in on the better bottle carboy and pitch the yeast when it gets down cool enough. That may actually wait until we get back home later tonight, but all good. Alright, well, there's the transferred wort into the carboy. I pretty much just used a funnel and poured it in. It's going to cool the rest of the way because it's still warmer than temperature should be pitched at. But it's going to cool the rest of the way while we are gone for the afternoon. When I come back later tonight, I'll pitch the yeast. I'm going to leave it spend its first 48 hours in the shower here, in case blow off or any of those kind of problems happen in those first 48 hours. So that's pretty much the Biere De Garde. Here's a close up again of what we've got. Well, you can see the fermentation has started. You can see stuff floating around in there a little bit. Things are going.